Hello, everybody. You are watching Limited Playtime. I am Kyle Bolin, and today I am taking a look at Marvel Dice Throne. Marvel Dice Throne is published by Roxley Games and the OP Games, who sent this copy to me for review. So Dice Throne has been around for several years. We covered Season 2 and part of Season 1 on one of our podcasts. In previous seasons, you could play as generic characters such as Moon Elf, or Barbarian, or Treant, or Ninja. But as of now, you can play as officially Marvel licensed characters such as Spider-Man and Black Widow. If you're already familiar with Dice Throne, then you probably know whether or not you want Marvel Dice Throne. If you want more Dice Throne and you happen to like the Marvel property, there you go. Go buy yourself a copy. You're in. If you're unfamiliar with Dice Throne and you don't know whether or not you're going to enjoy the game or not, then let's talk a little bit about what Dice Throne is, how it's played, what its strengths and weaknesses are, because that's going to inform whether you also enjoy Marvel Dice Throne. That and maybe a love for the Marvel property.
Marvel Dice Throne is essentially a one-on-one dueling game that can be played up to 6 players. This particular version allows you to play classic Marvel matchups such as Thor versus Loki and Scarlet Witch versus Spider-Man. 2 additional boxes are available with other odd duck pairings of Captain Marvel versus Black Panther and Black Widow versus Doctor Strange. Everything you need to play a game of Dice Throne is contained within the game trays organizer for the character that you choose. Unfold your player board to reveal all of the powers that you can activate with your dice, and lay out your character sheet to the side to explain any token effects as well as any other setup effects or other special rules for your character. There's also a deck that contains many cards that are universal as well as some cards that are specific to that character. Cards are played using a resource called Combat Points, or CP for short, tracked on this round dial. Each character also gets a dial for tracking their 50 health. Playing Dice Throne is basically like playing a game of Yahtzee, but with more punching to the face. The main part of a player's turn involves rolling 5 dice with symbols specific to that character and trying to match those symbols to abilities located on the character board. Each player has the ability to re-roll any of their dice up to 2 times for a total of 3 rolls. The sides of the dice are also numbered 1 through 6 to allow the player to activate powers that require small or large numerical straights instead of matching sets of symbols. Each board also includes at least 1 defensive ability the player may use when being attacked by their opponent. The character board powers and cards offer both asymmetry and thematic flavor to the characters included in Dice Throne. Miles Morales feels bouncy and agile like Spider-Man should, gaining advantage through damage avoidance and piling on multiple smaller attacks, compared to a character like Scarlet Witch who has some frightening power behind her hits and various hex effects to mess with her opponent. Dice Throne is at its best when you're being forced to make push-your-luck type decisions. Maybe you've already rolled 4 of the symbols that you need to play Black Widow's Infiltrate ability, but you've got 2 more rolls. Maybe you can get some immediate damage by risking the symbols to go for that vengeance. One of Dice Throne's strengths certainly lies in its accessibility. It can be taught in a handful of minutes, and anyone with basic literacy and comprehension can likely play almost any of the characters. They've also rated all of their characters in complexity to help guide newer or younger players towards the characters that might be easiest to start with and hit the ground running. Despite the game's low barrier to entry, the wide variety of dice-activated character abilities, card effects, and token-related effects make each character tray feel like a treasure chest of game mechanics waiting to be explored. One of my complaints after playing enough of the earlier season's characters was that there was an abundance of token effects that started to feel very samey. Many of the tokens felt like they amounted to something as simple as do more damage, prevent a little damage, or heal a little damage, which undermined the feeling of nuance between the characters. This problem is largely solved in Marvel Dice Throne, as nearly all of the characters have token effects that feel unique, interesting, and fun in ways that often synergize especially well with that particular character's mechanics. From building up kinetic energy tokens with Black Panther to do an increasing amount of damage each turn, to learning how to dig all of Black Widow's ability upgrades out of her deck to synergize with many of her abilities and other cards, there's plenty of satisfying moments to be had with the character designs in Marvel Dice Throne. Having had experience with most previous Dice Throne characters, I think some of the mechanical designs in Marvel Dice Throne are a nice step forward in creativity and are funner as a result. One of the things about Dice Throne that might turn some people off is the obvious fact that there's a high degree of randomness involved. This is true with any dice-driven game, and while there are chances to mitigate the randomness through tokens, cards, and abilities, there's still going to be turns where instead of a whack, zop, or pow, your dice just let out a passive little fart. Chances of seeing your ultimate ability activate naturally are slim to none, which means you'll need to hold those cards that'll let you manipulate the dice if you want to see it. Another point that might annoy some is the number of different damage types in the game. The game has 5 different types of damage, each with its own rules about if and how it can be enhanced, defended against, avoided, targeted in certain ways, and even whether or not it counts as a quote-unquote attack. It's enough that they've included a table in the rules to help players sort it all out, but when playing a game that feels this casual, it can feel a bit silly to have to consult a chart or table for a rule. Something that might fall to personal taste is the art style. I happen to love it. It's vibrant and fun, somewhere between the comic book origins and a Saturday morning cartoon. I'm sure some people might prefer something even more authentic to the comics, but I think the style matches the tone of the game exceptionally well. The components are also great, the cards have good stock, the player boards are well made and fun to unfold for the first time, and you can't understate how nice it is to have dice trays to quickly set up and pack away all of the individual characters. Some dice have barely perceptible blemishes, but that's the only component nitpick that I have. Ultimately, I would say if randomness in a game isn't a turn-off for you, and you're interested in a fast, fun, accessible, dice-driven dueling game, you won't go wrong with Marvel Dice Throne. It feels like the designers learned from many of the less polished areas of the previous characters and have done a good job of taking the character designs forward in fun and satisfying ways.
Dice Throne has been one of my go-to games over the last couple of years with just about any crowd. Marvel Dice Throne is now the best version of that game. So Marvel Dice Throne comes with high recommendations from me. I think it's great. If you're at all interested in this, it's worth picking up or at least trying out at your local game store. Thanks for watching, everybody. This is our first review video, and we intend to hopefully do some more video content throughout the rest of this year, see how it goes. Please check out our podcast. You can find it on practically any podcast service out there, your favorite one, I'm sure. Also, you can find us at limitedplaytime.com. You can follow me on Instagram at @KJBolin. And you can follow the Limited Playtime Podcast Instagram at Limited Playtime Podcast. Thanks again. See you next time.